The day I got the stink eye from every snooty soul in Horizon Meadows, Texas, was the day I became their unstoppable cowboy king. $350. That's the absurd bill Vivian Holt and her HOA posse slapped on me for letting my family's horses kick up a little dust on our ranch, a galloping good time that glued us together. They had no clue I was sitting on $7 million and a mischievous streak wild enough to spark a stampede that'd leave them eating dirt. If you're sneaking this video from your hayloft to dodge those HOA nagfests, toss a comment with your secret spot. I'm Ethan Caldwell, and until 3 months ago, I was saddled up for what folks might call a rancher's paradise. I'd spent 30 years building a cattle transport empire, streamlining routes across the Southwest, before selling it for enough to retire at 50. My wife, Clara, and our 14-year-old son, Levi, were ready for a new adventure. So we packed up and headed for wide open spaces. Horizon Meadows seemed like the perfect corral. A 70-acre ranch in a community of rolling plains, solid schools, and a 40-acre prairie begging for horse rides. Clara's eyes lit up at the thought of galloping again. She'd grown up racing ponies, and Levi inherited her love for the saddle. Our family rides were pure joy. Hooves thundering, laughter soaring. The realtor hyped the sunrises but glossed over the HOA. It's just for roads and vibes, she said, hesitating before muttering. Vivian Holt, the HOA president, is particular about appearances. I'd haggled with tough ranchers. How bad could one busybody be? Found out on a crisp October morning. Clara, Levi, and I were galloping across our pasture, Sundance and our mares, Juniper and Star, kicking up dust. Levi whooped. Clara grinned. And I felt alive, our first real family moment since the move. Then a voice sharper than a cattle prod sliced through. What is this chaos? Vivian Holt stomped up, a stout, pot-bellied woman clutching a tablet, her face scrunched like we'd herded bison through her rose garden. Morning, I said. Raining in Star. Just riding with my family. I'm Ethan Caldwell. New here. I tipped my hat. She ignored it, jabbing her tablet. Mr. Caldwell. Horse galloping is banned within 400 feet of the community prairie. HOA violation. I'm Vivian Holt, president. The fine is $350. Levi's jaw dropped, and Clara's smile vanished. Hold on, I said, calm, but firm. The realtor said riding was fine, and this is our land. Vivian's smirk was colder than a norther. The rule changed last month. All residents were emailed. I checked later, no email. Not in spam. What's the issue? I asked. Patting Star. They're trained. No harm done. Her eyes flicked to the horses with a sneer. Noise and dust ruin the prairie's pastoral charm. Not everyone wants to choke on your hoof prints while savoring their views. Her tone wasn't about charm. It was a personal jab, like we were rustlers in her perfect town. Levi looked crushed, and Clara's hand tightened on Juniper's reins. These rides were our family's heart, our way of knitting closer after the move, and Vivian was roping them off. We'll stable them for now, I said, nodding to Clara. Send me the fine and rules. Vivian's grin was smug as she strutted off, her red blouse and black pants glaring against the green pasture. Levi muttered, Dad, why's she so nasty? We weren't bothering anyone. I kept it light. Some folks love bossing more than breathing. Son, I said, leading the horses back. That night, I couldn't rest. Vivian's sneer, Levi's disappointment, Clara's quiet anger, they lit a fire under me. I cracked open my laptop, diving into the HOA's world. Vivian ran Holt Cattle Co., a business milking Horizon Meadows' ranching allure. Her social media flaunted her cattle grazing by the prairie, untouched by her pastoral charm nonsense. A buried HOA clause stopped me cold. The prairie was leased from Prairie Star Holdings, not HOA owned, and the lease was expiring soon. This wasn't about rules, it was a land grab, and I was ready to ride straight into her scheme with a herd of trouble. Ever been fined for letting a horse run free? Stick around, this fine kicked off a stampede I was ready to lead. Smash that like button if your HOA's ever tried to lasso your fun. When rules favor the powerful, you round up the truth. I found allies and a plan to trample Vivian's scheme. Vivian Holt's $350 fine for our family's horse galloping wasn't just a slap on the wrist. It was a barbed wire fence meant to pen us in. That night, as Clara and Levi slept, I sat under the glow of my office lamp, laptop humming, tearing through the HOA's secrets. What I found wasn't just petty control. It was a cattle baron's plot to claim the prairie, and I was ready to stampede over it. If you're sneaking this video from your tack room to skip another HOA gripe session, drop a comment with your hideout. This chapter's about to kick up some dust. Vivian had ruled Horizon Meadows for a decade. Her business, Holt Cattle Co., cashing in on the community's ranching charm. Her social media was a galling lie, photos of her cattle grazing freely by the 40-acre prairie, captioned "Preserving Our Heritage." No fines for her, no citations for noise or pastoral charm violations. The hypocrisy stung, but a deeper dig into the HOA bylaws sparked a fire. The prairie, where our horses galloped close, wasn't HOA property. It was leased from Prairie Star Holdings, a struggling land company, and the lease expired in 2 months. Vivian's galloping ban wasn't about aesthetics. It was about clearing the land for her cattle pens. The next morning, I ran into Sophia Alvarez, a retired veterinarian, while she checked her mailbox near our ranch. Her petite frame moved with purpose, her dark eyes keen at 62. "Heard about your galloping fine," she said, adjusting her glasses. "Vivian's got this place on a tight leash." I spilled the details: Levi's disappointment, Clara's frustration, and my suspicion about the prairie. Sophia's jaw tightened. She's after that prairie for Holt cattle, not the HOA. She wants cattle pens there, exclusive and profitable. Over lemonade in her tidy den, Sophia shared a folder of land records. "Prairie Star's in financial trouble," she said. "They're selling fast. Vivian's circling, and your horses are in her crosshairs." Sophia introduced me to Marcus Tate, a farrier who'd lived in Horizon Meadows for 15 years. Marcus, a wiry man in his 50s, met us in his workshop, the air sharp with iron and leather. "Vivian's been fining me for years," he said, showing me a spreadsheet on his cracked tablet. "My forge is too smoky, my truck too rusty. I'm cited 3 times as often as her buddies." His data was a revelation. Minority and new residents faced violations at quadruple the rate of Vivian's allies. Properties crushed by fines often sold cheap to shell companies tied to Holt cattle. "She's not just enforcing rules," Marcus said, eyes hard. "She's herding folks out to grab their land." Their stories multiplied at our first coalition meeting, held in Sophia's den under flickering candlelight. 10 residents squeezed in, swapping tales over iced tea. A teacher, Elena Ruiz, shared a $200 fine for unapproved garden stakes after she questioned an HOA fee. "My neighbor's stakes are the same. No fine," she said, voice sharp. A mechanic, Javier Lopez, got cited for excessive toolbox clutter, despite others' messier yards going untouched. A baker, Amina Hassan, faced fines for noisy delivery vans, while Vivian's allies' trucks roared free. Each story painted Vivian's strategy: target outsiders, pile on violations, and drive them to sell or despair. We formed a stealthy posse, meeting in barns, backyards, even a feed store's stockroom. Marcus set up a secure chat group, and within days, 18 households joined, sharing photos of violation notices and Vivian's cattle grazing penalty-free. I tapped my transport contacts to probe Holt Cattle's finances. The company was over-leveraged loans piled against her ranches, likely to fund her polished cattle auctions and designer boots. The prairie was her big bet. Cattle pens could net millions, staving off her creditors. If it flopped, she'd be dust. I met Carla Vargas, a land broker with no love for Vivian, at a diner 30 miles out. "Prairie Star's desperate," she said, stirring her coffee. "Vivian's offering $45,000 for the prairie, but her investors are shaky. They've given her a 60-day exclusive window, but cash would win." My mind raced. With $7 million from my business sale, I could outbid her, but we needed to play it sly. Sophia's words from our last meeting rang clear: "Let her parade her plan, make it loud. Then we bring the herd." Our coalition grew, fueled by shared anger. Vivian's galloping ban was a hoofprint in a larger scheme. 1. We were ready to overrun. I started plotting a strategy, one that would use her own rules to lasso her. But first, I needed to map the full reach of her corral on Horizon Meadows and find the gate to bust it open. Vivian Holt thought her $350 fine would rein in our family's horse galloping, but she'd only kicked up dust for a fight she couldn't outride. With our coalition of Horizon Meadows residents growing, I saw a chance to not just break free, but to charge her scheme with a herd she'd never control. If you're watching this from your horse trailer to dodge another HOA showdown, comment your hideout below. This chapter's about to thunder through. Our secure chat group buzzed with defiance. Now 20 households strong. We swapped violation notices like war stories. $125 for unapproved barn siding. $90 for excessive fence posts. Even $60 for non-compliant porch plants. Marcus Tate's spreadsheets exposed Vivian's tactics. Newcomers and minorities were fined 4 times more than her allies, pushing some to sell their ranches cheap to her shell companies. Her business, Holt Cattle Co., fed on our losses, and the 40-acre Prairie was her next grazing ground. My transport fortune gave me the horsepower to stop her, but we needed to pick the right moment to charge. I dug into Vivian's finances, tapping old industry contacts. Holt Cattle was a shaky corral propped up by loans against her ranches, likely to fund her cattle auctions and red blouse bravado. The Prairie was her lifeline. Cattle pens could save her from creditors. Carla Vargas, my land broker ally, spilled the dirt over burgers 35 miles from Horizon Meadows. Prairie Star Holdings is sinking, she said, voice hushed. Vivian's offering $45,000 for the Prairie, but her financing's wobbly investors are pulling out. They need cash fast, and a better offer could lasso it. I saw my shot. With $7 million in the bank, I could outbid her with cash. But we had to let her overplay her hand first. Sofia Alvarez, our coalition's sharpest mind, mapped it out in her barn. Hay bales doubling as seats. Wait for her to push her Prairie preservation fee, she said, her eyes gleaming. She'll stake her name on it. Then we charge. Marcus nodded, his farrier's hands steady. The harder she pushes, the more folks will join us when we break loose. Vivian obliged at the next HOA meeting, announcing a $85 monthly assessment for Prairie enhancement, flashing renderings of cattle pens as community assets. She didn't mention Holt. Cattle would profit. But her jab at reckless newcomers like me was blatant. When Elena Ruiz questioned the fee's necessity, Vivian struck. Miss Ruiz, didn't you have a property lien issue? She purred, twisting a settled matter into shame. The room tensed, but Elena held her ground. Her venom backfired. 5 more households joined our coalition, pushing us to 25. I met Prairie Star's VP, Mateo Ruiz, in a nondescript office 45 miles away. Vivian's $45,000 is stretched over 2 years, Mateo said, frustration creasing his brow. We're bleeding and need cash now. I leaned forward. I'll offer $55,000. All cash, closing in 6 days. His eyes widened. That's a deal breaker. But Vivian's got county pals. She'll kick hard. I smirked. I'm counting on it. Vivian turned up the heat. My ranch was hit with fines, $200 for unapproved stable lights, $150 for improper pasture fencing, $70 for Levi's saddle left out. Sophia got cited for a non-compliant herb garden, and Marcus for excessive anvil noise. The worst came when Levi came home, head low, clutching his hat. Kids at school called us troublemakers, he said, voice cracking. They said our horses ruin everything. I traced it to Vivian's ally, Lorraine Gibbs, who'd spread lies through her daughter's friends. Clara's eyes flashed with anger, and I nearly put the ranch on the market. Marcus stopped me. She's run off 4 families like this, he said, voice firm. You quit, she wins. And Levi learns bullies always do. He was right. Selling meant letting Vivian fence in our family's jaw. I doubled down, rallying our coalition in secret rotating meetups to dodge Vivian's spies. We gathered in Javier Lopez's shed, Amina Hassan's bakery, even a grain silo. Each tale of harassment fueled us. When Carla confirmed the Prairie's soil assessment was clean, I knew we were close. Prairie Star's board was ready to sign, And Vivian's Meadows cattle gala was days away, a perfect stage for her downfall. She was betting her reputation on her cattle pen vision. Unaware, I held the deed to her prize. For extra fun, I started planning a prank with Sophia, a herd of painted goats, to crash her gala. Just to rub it in, we just had to keep our hooves quiet until the moment to charge. They tried to corral us with fines, but I was ready to unleash a stampede. Keep watching. Comment if your HOAs ever tried to rope your freedom. Vivian Holt's grip on Horizon Meadows was about to buckle like a bad saddle, and I held the reins. With the 40-acre prairie now mine, her cattle pen scheme was dust, and I was ready to let loose a stampede horses, goats, and all that'd leave her choking on her own rules. If you're watching this from your feed stall to dodge another HOA tantrum, comment your hideout below. This chapter's where the hooves hit hard. Our coalition had grown to 32 households, a wild herd sick of Vivian's fines and favoritism. Her $85 monthly Prairie enhancement fee had sparked a fire, especially after her HOA meeting, where she paraded renderings of cattle pens as community pride. She didn't mention Holt Cattle Co. would pocket the profits, but her shots at disruptive newcomers like me rang clear. Sophia Alvarez, Marcus Tate, and I kept my Prairie purchase under wraps, using Caldwell Ventures LLC to mask my name. The deal closed 3 days before Vivian's Meadows Cattle Gala, a ritzy Prairie showcase for her loyalists, complete with cattle displays, her hypocrisy galloping free. I'd secured the Prairie from Prairie Star Holdings for $50,000, outbidding Vivian's shaky $45,000 offer. Their VP, Mateo Ruiz, had warned of Vivian's county cronies, but my attorney confirmed the Prairie was private land, free from HOA control once the lease expired in 15 days. Better yet, the HOA's neglect overgrazing by their leased cattle depleting the Prairie's soil gave me grounds to end the lease early. I hired a soil scientist, whose tests showed eroded topsoil and nutrient loss, exposing Vivian's pastoral charm as a sham. All was set for the gala, where I'd derail her parade with a deed and a herd of painted goats for laughs. Vivian hadn't slowed her attacks. My ranch was buried in fines, $275 for unapproved corral paint, $180 for excessive hoof prints, even $85 for Clara's riding boots left on the porch. Sophia got cited for a non-compliant mailbox, and Marcus for improper horseshoe stacks. The worst hit when Levi came home, eyes down, saying kids shunned him, parroting lies from Vivian's ally, Lorraine Gibbs, about our horses wrecking the town. Clara's face hardened, ready to fight. Sophia's calm voice kept us focused. "Wait for the gala," she said. "She's saddling her own noose." The Meadows Cattle Gala was Vivian's big show. She'd strung up fairy lights, catered ribs, and paraded her cattle ironic for someone who fined us for galloping. About 70 of her cronies mingled, sipping bourbon. While newcomers like us were snubbed, I arrived with Sophia, Marcus, my attorney, a deputy, and a surprise. 20 goats hidden nearby, painted with washable dye spelling Vivian's Folly. As Vivian raised a glass, toasting our Prairie's future, I grabbed her microphone. "Folks, there's a hitch," I said, voice steady. "As the new owner of this 40-acre prairie, I'm calling you trespassers on private land." The crowd froze. Vivian's face turned beet red. "This is HOA property," she screeched, lunging for the microphone. I held firm, raising the deed. It was Prairie Star's until I bought it 3 days ago. The HOA's lease ends in 15 days, but I'm ending it now for land mismanagement. I signaled the deputy. "You've got 10 minutes to scat." Then, on cue, Sophia's nephew released the goats. They charged through, bleeding, their painted message gleaming under the lights. Guests yelped, scattering. As Vivian shrieked, "Stop those beasts!" Laughter rippled. Even her allies smirked. The gala collapsed. Guests fled, dodging goats, glaring at Vivian. She stood, fuming, as her cattle were herded off. By morning, I'd posted no trespassing signs and hosted a public horse run. Clara, Levi, and I leading dozens of riders across the prairie, hooves thundering. I held a press conference with the local paper, announcing Clara's Meadow, a kids' riding program. I shared the soil tests, exposing the HOA's overgrazing depleted nitrogen and eroded topsoil threatening local streams. This prairie deserves freedom, I told reporters. We'll restore it for our kids. Vivian sued for community harm, but my deed and lease termination crushed her case. She tried new fines, $325 for unapproved prairie signage, $250 for excessive hoof noise, but residents were done. At the next HOA meeting, Javier Lopez stood, voice booming. Vivian spent $65,000 on a cattle gate for her pals while our fences rotted. Who's she working for? The crowd roared. An audit motion passed, and whispers of Vivian's cattle pen plan turned her allies against her. Our coalition hit 40 households, and the prairie was ours to run. She thought she owned the prairie until my horses ran it free. This reveal will leave you cheering. Vivian Holt's reign in Horizon Meadows was bucked off, and the prairie I'd claimed was now Clara's Meadow, a galloping heart for our community. Her $350 fine for our family's horse rides had sparked a stampede, and as her schemes crumbled, we built something untamed. If you're watching this from your saddle shed to skip another HOA lecture, comment your hideout below. This final chapter's about running free, and it's gonna thunder across your screen. The Meadows cattle gala's collapse, complete with our goat prank, left Vivian floundering. Her lawsuit for community harm was thrown out when my attorney flashed the prairie deed and proof of the HOA's expired lease. She tried roping me with fines of $400 for unapproved horse trails, $275 for excessive prairie dust. But her corral was breaking. Javier Lopez's audit call at the HOA meeting had loosed the herd. The vote passed, and whispers of Vivian's cattle pen scheme spread like wildfire. Our coalition, now 45 households, posted Marcus Tate's data on discriminatory fines to the community board. Amina Hassan shared photos of her noisy van next to Vivian's allies' louder trucks, captioned, "Fair." The audit uncovered a swamp, $7,000 diverted to a cattle showcase for Holt Cattle Co. His clients, $3,000 in consulting fees to Vivian's nephew. Residents demanded justice, and her allies bolted. Vivian's desperation kicked up one starry night. My prairie cameras caught her and Lorraine Gibbs scattering invasive weed seeds, Russian thistle to choke Clara's meadow and frame me for neglect. I sent the footage to the sheriff. Tests confirmed the seeds were a noxious species, banned locally, meant to sabotage our riding program. Vivian was charged with criminal trespassing and environmental tampering. As she was processed, investigators dug into HOA finances, uncovering misappropriated funds, selective enforcement, and evidence she'd rigged ranch sales for Holt cattle. Civil lawsuits from targeted residents piled up, and her company teetered on collapse. I saw my chance to reshape Horizon Meadows. I invited all residents except HOA brass to a meeting in my barn, crammed with 60 households under string lights. I laid out my vision: transfer Clara's meadow to a community trust, but with reins first. The HOA needed new leadership with term limits and transparent elections. Second, all rules would be scrubbed for fairness. Third, an ethics committee would rotate yearly. Then I dropped a bombshell. Using my transport contacts, I said, I've bought mortgage notes on 18% of Horizon Meadows ranches, including Vivian's. The crowd gasped. With Sophia's banking connections, I'd targeted her allies' debt. I won't foreclose, I assured them, but I'll offer low-rate refinancing after we fix this mess. The vote to overhaul the HOA was unanimous. Vivian resigned, buried in charges and lawsuits. Lorraine Gibbs quit when I announced free riding lessons at Clara's Meadow, excluding HOA leaders' families until they stepped down. 4 more board members fled, mumbling personal reasons. Sophia Alvarez, our veterinarian strategist, was elected president, promising openness. She led a rule purge, tossing nonsense like maximum hoofprint depth. The galloping ban was history, replaced with rider-friendly guidelines. Vivian's last stand was a smear, claiming Clara's meadow was a weed-infested hazard. I countered with public soil tests, showing healthier land than under HOA neglect. Thanks to our reseeding efforts, her final ploy came when she tried bribing Elena Ruiz with dropped fines to sabotage me. Elena recorded it, I can clear your violations. Vivian's voice crackled. Just spook Caldwell about Prairie costs. Elena shared it in our chat group, and the clip spread like gossip at a rodeo. She's dust. Marcus laughed, tossing me the file. For extra fun, we kept the goat prank alive. At a town fair, our coalition paraded a dozen goats, painted with washable Vivian Who slogans, prancing past her old ranch now for sale, shunned by buyers. The crowd roared, and even former allies chuckled. Vivian's humiliation was complete when a local diner named a spicy taco Vivian's Folly served with a side of Stampede sauce. 6 months later, Clara, Levi, and I hosted a horse festival at Clara's Meadow. Families gathered, kids learning to ride, parents swapping tales across old divides. Levi, grinning, coached a group on lasso tricks, while Clara led a gallop, her laughter echoing. "This is home," she said, reining in juniper, her eyes bright. I nodded, feeling the prairie's pulse. The land, once Vivian's prize, was now a free range for all, locked in the community trust. Horizon Meadows became a model for HOA reform, with nearby towns copying our ethics code. Vivian skipped town. Her ranch sold at a loss, tainted by her legacy. I was nudged to run for county commissioner after the mayor, her crony, quit amid scrutiny, but I declined. Instead, I expanded Clara's Meadow with more riding programs, keeping the spirit of our family's gallops alive. The community loved our goat-themed festivals, with kids painting mock folly signs, turning Vivian's defeat into a running joke. As Clara, Levi, and I watched the festival's horses charge under a fiery sunset, the prairie felt alive. Justice wasn't just outrunning Vivian. It was building a place where freedom galloped free. We'd turned her dust into a wild legacy, proving a $350 fine could spark a revolution and a good laugh. A $350 fine for galloping started this wild ride. But it's about more than horses. It's about kicking bullies to the curb. Vivian tried to fence us in, but she didn't count on a family, a herd of allies, and a prank with painted goats to turn her world upside down. Clara's Meadow proves you can outrun tyrants with smarts, grit, and a bit of humor. If your HOA's roping your joy, round up your posse and fight back. Your stand can spark a stampede. Share this to fire up others, and comment below with your HOA nightmares or the funniest revenge you'd pull on a Vivian. Let's keep this prairie running free.